I met my spouse in 2005, and I was working on the floor in Charleston as a nurse, civilian nurse, loving every minute of it. But when I met him, he started to tell me about his civilian job and then about his responsibility in his job in the Guard. He's a Citadel graduate. And I became inspired by his Guard journey. Before he actually entered the Guard, while he was a student at the Citadel, and then making the decision to join the military straight out of the chute, but do that reserve component time. And not only was it going to help him financially, but it was also an opportunity for him to serve in his hometown in Pickens, South Carolina. He ended up becoming the commander of that armory with the AA back in the day. Invaluable experience, but also a lot of pride there to be able to actually go home and serve in military in his hometown, which was neat. So when I met him, he had already transitioned into a position as a senior instructor at Palmetto Military Academy, which is Officer Candidate School, out of McCready Training Center. And he had a graduation coming up. The class that he had been instructing that year was graduating, and he invited me to come along. So lo and behold, I hop in the car and we drive from Charleston to Eastover, South Carolina, and attend PMA graduation class 56. And I honestly can tell you that that was a major turning point in my life. I had never been exposed to anything like that in terms of ceremony, in terms of the way it made me feel to be sitting there, how proud I felt of this class of candidates that I didn't even know. Actually, I knew two of them. I grew up with two of them, so that inspired me. My husband received an award that day for Best Senior Instructor, and so we got in the car to drive back to Charleston, and I started asking 1,000 questions about the Army National Guard. So that turned into an interesting conversation. I would fair to say almost an argument, because he said, nurses, we have nurses in the Guard, but I'm pretty sure we've got plenty of nurses in the Guard, and we live in Charleston, and how would that work? And I wouldn't say that he was trying to deter me, but at the same time it wasn't sort of a lively two-way conversation. I was asking a lot of questions and he was showing a lot of resistance. And so fast forward a year later, almost to the day, I drove myself to the Cross County Road Armory in Charleston, South Carolina, and talked to a recruiter. That was it. And so I did not join as a nurse. I joined as an 09 Sierra, which is an officer candidate enlistment, because I wasn't married, I didn't have any children, and I had done enough research to understand that I could go to officer candidate school and go to Palmetto Military Academy if I went to basic training first. And I was in a time and space and a chapter in my life where I was available to do that. So that's what I did. I joined the Army May 11th, 2006 as an 09 Sierra. Went to basic combat training at Fort Leonard Wood, came home and went to the Palmetto Military Academy, class 59 graduate. When I joined, I was 30 years old. So having had that background in nursing and having worked the field for years already before I had this opportunity was invaluable, because serving in the nursing field, just like serving as an officer in the United States military, you have to have a tremendous amount of discipline to be successful, and you also have to be able to think on your feet and to think critically. Every time I am able to successfully help a soldier maneuver through from start to finish their medical care, to work together to find that best end state for that service member. And every time that happens, that's a highlight. Being dual military has definitely had its moments of immense stress, but I don't think that it's any different than a lot of couples that are just trying to make it work around this maelstrom of life that is happening around us at all times. We're so much busier than we used to be, more
more of us are working than used to. The kids have more going on, which takes a lot of time and a lot of heart. And when you spend all day giving your time and your heart, 11,000 service members and their families, it's hard to come home and give all your time and all your heart. And my sweet husband works for 1st Battalion, the battalion, the Apache Battalion. It's an incredibly stressful, high-tempo, high-operational work environment, and they have one mission, and it's intense, and it has to be accurate, and it has to be right, and it has to be time on target, and there's no room for mistake. And that goes from shooting your hellfire into its target down to the small things that happen at home, because that's how they have to think to be successful. And so for me to turn my heart back on for him, and for him to turn off the incredibly detail-oriented, type A way of thinking and doing things so that we can kind of come together for each other and hover around and over this beautiful child can be challenging. So what I would say for dual military couples that just have one service member, one person, one spouse serving, talk about readiness. You have to say your relationship has to stay ready and be ready, and we have worked very hard on that, and we're very, very, very lucky and blessed that we have this wonderful service in the reserve component that's also available to the active component called Military One Source. So my spouse and I chose years ago to use this service methodically, and I honestly do not believe had we not done that we would be as strong as we are. We have our days, don't get me wrong, but the point is that we go, because there's no reason not to. There was a lot of hesitation there on both of our parts because we both served. We didn't want to be flagged. We didn't want anyone to know about this, at first. Now I'm very proud to talk about it because I feel like it helps a lot of folks and breaks that stigma. It really is okay to go talk to somebody. It's completely separate from anything you're doing in your job. If you are there to be honest in the name of trying to improve your relationship and or just stay strong in your relationship, it's so worth it.